18 years ago. I died in a car accident while saving my entire family. I left behind only my wife, Sophia, to raise our daughter all by herself. I loved her more than my own life. To return to my wife and daughter. I even wagered with the gods, willing to pay the cruelest price in exchange for resurrection. Yet when I came back, I walked straight into her wedding with Makoto. I rushed forward to acknowledge her. However, she not only failed to recognize me, but even slapped me across the face, leaving me stunned on the spot, and angrily cursed me for what kind of age gap romance I thought I was pulling. Only then did I realize, the gods had turned me back into my 18-year-old self. And Sophia was already white-haired, her face covered in deep wrinkles. Chapter 1, Breaking. The famously chaste chairwoman Kim is exposed. At 62, she's allegedly keeping an 18-year-old virgin. I was violently shoved to the ground, staring at Sophia Kim in disbelief. I cried out, "Wife," a reporter gasped. "How shameless, calling a woman who could be his grandmother wife. For money. He has no dignity at all. Chairwoman Kim's husband died years ago. She's not your wife." The unbearable insults pierced my heart like needles. They didn't know. Sophia truly was my wife, and I was her long-dead husband. Only now I had crossed into the 18th year after my death in the body of an 18-year-old wife. I'm sorry. Today, I secretly followed Sophia when she went out, never expecting to be surrounded by reporters. I staggered to my feet, only to be shoved down again. Sophia's eyes froze over. She said coldly, "Shut up, stay away from me." Then she turned her face, staring straight into the cameras. "Everyone. He is not my lover. He's just someone trying to latch onto me because he resembles my late husband. And I don't know him at all." Her gray hair glistened like frost under the camera lights. I stared at her blankly, my eyes suddenly burning. Doesn't know me. At 9, she walked me to school. At 18, she followed me to the countryside. At 22, she married me. From childhood sweethearts to 40 years together, the woman who had accompanied me my entire life actually said she didn't know me at all, but it was clearly her who, after my death, lost her mind, fell into severe depression, and said that as long as she could see me again, she would be willing to pay any price. Hearing her countless prayers, I begged the gods to let me return, even trading the cruelest price for it. 18 years ago, I died in a car accident saving my family. I left behind Sophia, our daughter, and a newborn grandson. I spent my life doing good deeds. After death, I ascended to the heavens. But Sophia's obsession was too deep. I could hear her voice at all times. At first, she prayed to every god and Buddha, wishing for fate in the next life. Later, she grew increasingly desperate, seeking shamans and mystics to bring me back from the dead. Unable to bear it, I went to plead with the gods, asking to return to the mortal world to see my wife one last time. The gods smiled faintly and said, "Is seeing her once enough? I can resurrect you and let you stay with her. But if she rejects you, you will never again be husband and wife for eternity. Do you dare to gamble?" I didn't hesitate. Sophia loved me with her life. After more than 40 years together, there was no way she would reject me. But the moment I returned, I ran into her wedding. The groom had white hair, his brows and eyes resembling mine by 70%, and my wife had already become an elderly woman nearing the end of her years. My daughter, Jasmine, had gone from a reckless 22-year-old to a calm and capable corporate elite. Only then did I realize, 18 years had already passed in the human world. My appearance was like a fire, burning away all celebration. The groom, Makoto, was so shocked that he fainted on the spot. Sophia did not rush into my arms in joyful tears as I had imagined. Instead, her expression turned heavy. My daughter lost control and screamed at me. "We finally managed to build a new life without you. Why did you come back?" My fingers trembled. I didn't understand. Why, when I returned from the dead, was there no joy on their faces at all? "Wife, daughter, can we continue being a family?" "Okay." With reddened eyes, I reached out to hug Sophia, but she shoved me away. While I stood frozen, my daughter dragged me in front of a mirror. "Look at yourself now. How are we supposed to be a family?" Only then did I finally realize in horror, I had returned to being 18 years old, and at that moment, I finally understood the god's faint smile, and the cruelty of that wager. A sharp slap landed across my face. I was knocked to the ground, and before I could react, a group of people swarmed me, raining down punches and kicks. "You trash who seduces rich older women. You're only 18. Chairwoman Kim's daughter could be your mother. Her grandson is from your generation. How do you even have the nerve to cling to her?" In pain, I curled up instinctively and looked toward Sophia outside the crowd, but she turned her gaze away indifferently and left quickly under the escort of her bodyguards, as if I were some kind of plague. A sharp, stabbing pain pierced my chest. "So this is how much the current Sophia hates me." A sneer sounded nearby. TCH, you're only 18, you and Chairwoman Kim are completely incompatible. Wake up already. Yeah, incompatible. I really should wake up. After all, I had already persisted for an entire month, and Sophia hadn't given me a single kind look. After I ruined the wedding, my daughter told me about Makoto. Makoto Ito was a renowned psychologist, yet he could never truly cure Sophia's illness. In the end, by imitating me, he spent 18 years little by little helping her walk out of the shadow of losing her husband. My daughter said her mother had already fallen in love with Uncle Ito and advised me to back off while I still could, but I refused to believe Sophia would truly fall in love with a replacement. Just like before, I made her soup and bought her books, yet she didn't even glance at them. On the contrary, Makoto's terrible experimental cooking, she ate it without changing her expression. A random foxtail grass he casually picked, she treated it like a priceless treasure. Suddenly, someone kicked me hard in the head. Agony swept through my entire body, and I could no longer hold on. Everything went black. The hospital. After receiving 30 stitches, I returned home alone. As soon as I walked in, I saw Jasmine coaxing a teenage boy. Noah lifted his eyes slightly, then suddenly jumped up from the couch and pointed at me. Aren't you that gold-digging guy who tried to seduce my grandma? Do you have any shame? Why did you chase us all the way to my house? You're the same age as me. How dare you cling to my grandma? Jasmine grabbed the agitated Noah. Calm down first. Actually, he is. My nails dug deep into my palms. So, my grandson had never known about my existence. Before this, Noah had been abroad. When I wanted to see him, my wife and daughter always made excuses and avoided it. Seeing Jasmine furrow her brows over and over, unable to say the rest, I suddenly understood. My daughter couldn't bring herself to acknowledge me. But back then, Jasmine used to show me off to everyone. This is my dad. Handsome, right? I silently went upstairs, passing by the locked master bedroom. My heart clenched violently. This had once been my room. After I died, Sophia sealed it off. Everything inside remained exactly as it was 18 years ago. But now, even I myself was no longer allowed to enter. I returned to the guest room where I now lived. For this entire month, I had tried everything I could, yet Sophia never accepted me. Today, I had planned to try one last time, only to be photographed by reporters. Looking at the family portrait on the table, my eyes reddened. Back then, we were clearly such a close family. After hesitating again and again, I decided to try one final time. I wanted to tell Sophia about the wager with the gods, but just as I approached the study, I heard the conversation inside. Mom, I told Noah about Dad. He was so scared he cried. He can't accept having an 18-year-old grandpa. I can't accept having an 18-year-old father either. Today's scandal had a huge impact. The stock price dropped by half. A sigh drifted through the air, followed by Sophia's aged voice. Right now, he's just unnecessary. That sentence hit my heart like a sledgehammer, shattering my last remaining illusion. Unnecessary. So in the hearts of the people I loved most, I was unnecessary. I tilted my head back, forcing the tears back into my eyes. If that's the case, then I'll disappear from their world and return peace to them. I contacted the top-tier elite family of S City, the Liu family. I want to take Noah's place and undergo a fortune reversal marriage. Author's note: fortune reversal marriage refers to using a happy event, usually marriage, to dispel bad luck, illness, or ominous fate, hoping to change someone's fortune, make them better, and keep them alive. The Liu family's eldest daughter was in a vegetative state and critically ill. They offered the Kim family 100 billion in exchange for Noah to undergo this fortune reversal marriage, because he was the country's only person with a pure Yang constitution. That was why Noah had returned to the country, but he refused and cried every day. Back then, when the Kim family faced a financial crisis, Jasmine had no choice but to enter a strategic marriage. It ended unhappily. After giving birth to Noah, she divorced and never remarried. Unwilling to let my grandson repeat my daughter's tragedy, I decided to help them one last time, consider it fulfilling the bond of family in this lifetime. The next day, after confirming that I also possessed a pure Yang constitution, the Liu family agreed. The wedding was set for 1 month later. Before I left, the butler asked curiously, "What is your relationship to Ms. Sophia Kim?" I choked. After a long pause, I finally spoke. My voice was hoarse, as if I were crying. Her grandson. Chapter 2. I walked alone down the street. In a daze, I suddenly recalled something from 30 years ago, when I had been hit by a tricycle, my face ruined and my leg broken. Sophia had clutched me tightly and said, "George, even if you're paralyzed, even if your face is destroyed, no matter what you become, I'll still love you." I once believed there would never be any gap between us. I never imagined that age would become an unbridgeable chasm. The moment I stepped into the villa, I heard Noah laughing on the phone. "Grandma, Mom, this is great. Someone's marrying into the Liu family in my place. I wonder which unlucky bastard is going to marry a living corpse." But the instant he saw me, His smile vanished. "You monster, stay away from me." After shouting, he ran upstairs as if fleeing from a plague, watching my grandson avoid me at all costs. I said softly, "Don't worry, in 1 month, you'll never see me again." Suddenly, something warm and wet brushed against my hand. A golden retriever was licking me. My eyes stung uncontrollably. This dog was one I had raised 20 years ago. It hadn't seen me for 18 years, yet the moment I returned, it recognized me and eagerly pressed close. In this house now, only the dog was still willing to recognize me. 7 days later, I went to an auction to buy the bride price. The Liu family lacked nothing, but I couldn't go empty-handed. As soon as I reached the entrance, I saw Sophia walking toward me hand in hand with Makoto. "Makoto," she said warmly, "tomorrow's your birthday. Tonight, whatever you want, I'll light the sky lantern for you." I froze slightly. "Makoto." Makoto lowered his gaze with a faint smile, but when he saw me, his expression immediately turned cold. He stepped in front of Sophia. "Mr. Wang, was the damage you caused to the Kim group last time not enough? You even dare to chase her here? Are you determined to ruin Sophia's reputation in her later years before you're satisfied?" "You've misunderstood. I'm here to buy the bride price." Sophia cut me off indifferently. "Makoto, let's go in. There's no need to bother with irrelevant people." Irrelevant. Those 2 words stabbed straight into my heart like needles. More than 40 years as husband and wife, and in the end, I became irrelevant. The auction had already begun when I entered. I deliberately chose a seat as far away from them as possible. The first item presented was an aquamarine brooch. Aquamarine symbolized unwavering loyalty. In the past, whenever Sophia saw this gemstone, she would always buy it and give it to me. But this time, Sophia immediately lit the sky lantern, not even giving others a chance to bid. Amid the gasps of the crowd, she pinned the brooch onto Makoto's chest. Makoto smiled sweetly. My heart clenched painfully, but soon, I let go. Makoto was her remarried husband. Sophia should be loyal to him. Wasn't that right? After steadying my emotions, I began buying the bride price. Everything I bid on was gold jewelry. Sophia frowned deeply. I had never liked gold. Aside from our wedding, I had never bought it. I wasn't even getting married. Why was I buying gold? Makoto's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Sophia, I want that brooch as my birthday gift." Sophia nodded without hesitation, but when she saw the item clearly, she fell silent. That ruby brooch was my father's keepsake. I sprang to my feet, staring at it in agitation. It had been my father's most cherished possession, and the only thing he left me. 40 years ago, to help Sophia through a financial crisis, I had sold it with great pain. Later, Sophia wanted to buy it back for me, but she was never able to find it. Sensing a gaze from above, I instinctively looked back. When I met Makoto's provocative eyes, my whole body trembled. I desperately shook my head at Sophia, silently begging her with my eyes, "Please don't compete with me for my father's keepsake. I'm begging you." But Sophia calmly looked away. The moment the auctioneer announced the start, she lit the sky lantern without hesitation. Makoto happily pulled her into a hug and kissed her, while I collapsed weakly back into my chair, my heart colder than it had ever been. Sophia knew exactly how important that brooch was to me. She had said that if she ever came across it, she would buy it for me no matter what. She had sworn it herself. So during the intermission, I finally couldn't hold back and rushed into the private room to confront her. But Sophia only rubbed her brow wearily and said, "You ruined my wedding with Makoto last time. He's been in a bad mood ever since." My voice trembled. "But you can't use my father's keepsake to please him. You knew how important that brooch was to me." Tears poured out uncontrollably, blurring my vision. Yet Sophia only looked at me calmly. "But now, in my heart, Makoto matters far more than you." Each word pierced my heart like an ice spike. I suddenly laughed, bitter, mocking. Of course, she didn't even care about me, a living person anymore. How could she possibly care about an inanimate object? At that moment, Makoto came in with tea and sat beside Sophia. He deliberately glanced at me before turning to the woman next to him. "I really like this brooch. Will you help me put it on now?" "All right, as long as you're happy. Anything is fine." That excessive tenderness tore apart my final restraint. I don't know how I walked out of the private room, or how I ran outside like a madman. The torrential night rain nearly crushed me. I suddenly remembered the days when we went to the countryside together. On rainy days like this, Sophia would trudge through the mud to pick me up, holding the entire umbrella over my head. "George, I'll shield you from wind and rain for the rest of my life, until my very last breath." But now, even knowing that because of the age gap, Sophia could no longer love me, my heart still hurt so badly. Chapter 3. I walked through the rain all night before finally making it home. My soles were covered in blisters and blood. Today was my death anniversary. For 18 years, on this very day, from morning till night, I could always hear Sophia, Kim and Jasmine crying, missing me. But today, the Kim household was filled with laughter and joy. 3 generations of grandparents and grandchildren gathered in the living room to celebrate Makoto's birthday. Looking at the festive streamers and balloons, a fine, lingering pain spread through my chest. So everyone had forgotten my death anniversary. Silently, I went upstairs and shut all the noise outside the door. I took a shower and changed into a clean white outfit. But the moment I stepped out of the bathroom, I saw Makoto sitting on my bed, holding a slice of cake, smiling brightly. Mr. Wong, you haven't eaten cake in 18 years, have you? Half a month ago, on your birthday, your family went traveling with me, and didn't even buy you a cake. I listened calmly, without much reaction. Makoto froze for a moment, then grew irritated. Do you know how much effort it took me to erase you from Sophia's heart? I never married. I thought I'd never meet someone I truly liked in this lifetime, until Jasmine brought Sophia to see me for treatment. I fell in love at first sight with that dignified, cold, elegant woman. Back then, you had just died. Sophia completely lost the will to live. She slit her wrists, swallowed spoons again and again, determined to follow you in death. I couldn't bear to see her like that, so I used electrotherapy to erase you from her memory. Yet even when her whole body was burned and scorched, she still screamed your name. What happened after that? Jasmine already told you. I imitated you to enter her heart. It took me a full 18 years. I was naturally reserved and restrained, yet I had to learn your passionate, flamboyant way of loving. Do you know how painful that was for me? But I was willing, because I love Sophia. But why? Why did you come back just after she finally agreed to marry me? What right do you have to come back and steal the happiness I fought so hard for? I remained silent the entire time. His breathing grew more and more rapid. After a long while, he suddenly spoke in a low, eerie voice. Mr. Wong, today the whole family gave me birthday gifts. You're the only one who didn't. So how about this? Let's make Sophia completely hate you. As the words fell, a vicious glint flashed through his eyes. He smashed the cake into his own face and ran out crying. Sophia, Jasmine, I kindly brought cake for Mr. Wong, but he hit me and said I was unnecessary, told me to get out of this house. I hate being framed more than anything. I immediately said, it wasn't me. Makoto framed me. The next second, the small guest room was crammed full of people. For the first time, the Kim family had stepped into this room. Sophia glanced at me, calm and composed, then at Makoto, who was crying miserably. In the end, she stood by Makoto's side. George, I know you're taking your anger out on Makoto because we celebrated his birthday on your death anniversary. I couldn't help but look up. So she hadn't forgotten my death anniversary. She just didn't care anymore. Jasmine's furious voice rang in my ears. Let me tell you, we all remember your death anniversary. It's just that a dead man's day is not as important as Uncle Ito's birthday. After a pause, she continued. That's right. In our hearts, you're already dead. You died 18 years ago. My heart spasmed painfully. I instinctively looked at Sophia. She fell silent for a moment, then spoke coldly. Jasmine is right. Now, we only want Makoto as family. We don't need you anymore. So stop targeting Makoto. You're the unnecessary one here. The one who should leave is you. Even though I had overheard words like this before, hearing them to my face still hurt so badly it felt suffocating, as if my heart had been stabbed clean through. All the grievance and pain I had bottled up for so long finally exploded. I couldn't help but demand an answer. Sophia, if you think I'm unnecessary, why did you look for shamans and mystics everywhere to bring me back from the dead? Why did you try anything at all? As long as there was even a sliver of hope, even drawing blood from your heart with syringes. If I hadn't seen how far gone you were, if I hadn't been unable to bear watching you destroy yourself, why would I ever have come back? My voice shook violently. Tears fell harder and harder. Jasmine turned her head away uncomfortably. Noah covered his mouth in shock. Makoto's teeth were nearly crushed from jealousy. I didn't care anymore. I grabbed Sophia's arm, as if clinging to my last piece of driftwood, crying uncontrollably. Do you remember? Back then, you accepted me even when I was paralyzed and disfigured. You said no matter what I became, you'd still love me. Then why can't you accept me becoming younger? Sophia, tell me why. Why exactly? I cried until my chest felt torn apart. Sophia, however, looked at me indifferently from beginning to end, as if she didn't care at all. No one knew that behind her back, her hand was already trembling so hard she couldn't even clench it. When my sobbing finally eased, she spoke calmly, because I don't love you anymore. After you came back, I realized I'd already fallen in love with Makoto. I just hadn't been aware of it. My crying stopped abruptly. Don't love you anymore. Those light, casual words completely crushed me. I stared at Sophia for a moment, then suddenly laughed. I raised my hand and wiped the tears from my face hard, took a deep breath, and spoke in a terrifying calm. Fine, I'll leave. After saying that, I ran out without looking back. Sophia instinctively reached out her hand, but in the end, slowly clenched it into a fist and pulled it back. I went to a bar. I needed alcohol to numb myself. This would be the last time I cried for Sophia, that's what I told myself. From now on, we would each start new lives and never interfere with each other again. And I meant it. I took off the white outfit and changed into a red, deep V sheer suit. Then I stepped into the center of the dance floor and began to dance wildly. Chapter 4. I tilted my head back and downed 10 glasses of whiskey in a row. Only then did the suffocating gloom in my chest ease slightly. Under the hazy lights, I suddenly remembered, when I was young, clothes this sexy weren't in fashion. By the time they became popular, I was already old, already Sophia's husband, and had to be steady, restrained, and dignified. Since Sophia kept saying I was only 18 and not someone from her world, then starting tonight, I would officially begin living the life of an 18-year-old. A young, fiery girl walked up to me, swirling her drink. "Hey handsome, want to dance?" I froze. Before I could even react, a figure rushed over at lightning speed and swung a fist straight into the woman's face. Bang! The woman staggered back in shock. When she saw that the one who hit her was an elderly woman, she immediately lunged forward to fight back, only to be kicked hard and sent flying, then pinned to the ground and beaten mercilessly. Amid the crowd's screams and scattering, I finally realized what had happened. I stared blankly at Sophia. Her eyes were bloodshot as she punched and kicked the woman, striking with ruthless force. I had never seen her this unhinged. Maybe you should stop," I said carefully. Sophia whipped her head around, panting heavily. "What? You feel sorry for her?" I didn't catch the sarcasm in her tone and answered honestly. "Your hand is bleeding. You might need it treated." In the private room, I awkwardly held the medical kit. The deep V neckline made me afraid to bend forward. Sophia took it calmly and treated her own wounds. As if remembering something, she said coldly, "Dressed like this, have you no sense of propriety?" I lowered my head, confused. Didn't Sophia no longer care about me? Then what I wore, what did it have to do with her? But since she was injured, I didn't plan to argue. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness hit me. My body felt heavier and heavier, my blood burning as if it were about to boil. Instinctively, I lunged towards Sophia. "Something's wrong with me, take me to the hospital, quickly." That woman must have drugged me. Seeing my flushed skin, Sophia felt a surge of fear. Thankfully, she had arrived in time. Feeling my solid body, she uncontrollably recalled the intimacy we once shared. Her arms around my neck, her teeth sinking into my shoulder, her legs wrapped around my waist. A tidal wave surged. Sophia instinctively wanted to push me down, but suddenly she saw herself in the mirror. White hair, wrinkled skin. The abnormal sensations vanished in an instant. She pressed her lips together in defeat, the overwhelming sense of powerlessness crashing down on her like cold water. I was only 18, but she was already 62. She was old and frail. How could she possibly hold back a handsome young man like me? Sophia pried my fingers off one by one and silently left. Her hunched back looked especially ironic and desolate. After the burning heat passed, my consciousness gradually returned, and the alcohol wore off halfway. With my head splitting in pain, I vaguely remembered that Sophia seemed to have come by earlier, but for some reason, she left without saying a word. Maybe she had just passed by. Maybe she left because she hated me too much. I shook my head and laughed bitterly, then called an ambulance. Before it arrived, Jasmine showed up first. I froze. "How did you know I was here?" Jasmine glared at me and didn't answer. I figured, just like Sophia, she probably happened to pass by too. My daughter took me to the hospital. By the time we got home, it was already dawn. The moment I touched the bed, I fell into a deep sleep, only to be jolted awake by a violent kick against the door. Jasmine stormed in and smashed her phone against me. "You had to go to a bar last night and look for women just to piss my mom off. Take a look at what people are saying about me online now. Are you satisfied?" Rubbing my eyes, I looked over, and my eyes flew open. I was trending again. The headline said I was Jasmine's lover, that after failing to seduce her mother, I turned around and seduced her daughter. In the photos, my hair was a mess. I was wearing a sexy sheer suit, and Jasmine was supporting me as she helped me into a car. Ambiguous beyond explanation. "I'm sorry, daughter." "What's the point of saying sorry?" Jasmine roared like she'd lost her mind, completely unlike the composed CEO she usually was. "You walking disaster. You ruined my mother's reputation in her old age, and now you're destroying mine too. Why did you have to come back and ruin our lives?" As she screamed, she started smashing things, venting her fury by destroying everything in my room that could be broken. In the end, the 40-something woman crouched on the floor like a child, clutching her head and sobbing. "I hate you. Get out. Disappear. Get lost. Get lost." It felt like a massive stone was pressing on my chest, nearly suffocating me. I clenched my fists, then loosened them, over and over again. When she finally calmed down a little, I spoke, my voice trembling. "I'll leave soon. I'll marry into another family." Sophia, who had just walked in, froze in place upon hearing those words. Her pupils shrank abruptly. Chapter 5. George, what kind of joke are you playing? After the words left her mouth, Sophia didn't even realize how tense her voice sounded, but I looked straight at her and said seriously, "It's true, I'm marrying into the Liu family." Jasmine suddenly stood up and cut me off. "That's enough, stop it. Making up a lie like this just to trick us. You're only trying to make my mom anxious, aren't you?" Hearing her daughter's words, Sophia quietly let out a breath of relief, then said coldly, "From now on, if you don't respect yourself and casually go after women, I won't interfere anymore. Even if you marry someone else, it has nothing to do with me." With that, the mother and daughter left indifferently. I watched their backs and laughed. I laughed and laughed, until tears fell. "Don't cry. You've clearly decided to start a new life. You were never part of their world anymore. So why are you still sad?" In the study, Sophia took a hard drag from her cigarette. Aside from the time right after my death 18 years ago, she had never smoked again. "Mom, this is all your fault," Jasmine complained. "If you hadn't insisted I go pick him up last night, would I have ended up in a scandal? Yesterday was Uncle Ito's birthday. You should have stayed home with him the moment you left. He cried terribly. I really don't understand what's so good about that man. And what about you?" Sophia cut her off bluntly. "The moment I stepped out, you chased after me and dumped your Uncle Ito on Noah." Jasmine fell silent. After a long while, she let out a heavy sigh. "Mom, I know you can't let go of Dad, but he's only 18. You and him can't be husband and wife, and I can't accept an 18-year-old boy as my father. It's impossible. Absolutely impossible." She repeated it over and over. No one knew whether she was saying it to her mother, or convincing herself. From that day on, I began avoiding the Kim mother and daughter, afraid of being photographed again. I locked myself in my room and didn't even go out to eat. Half a month later, Sophia suddenly came to see me. "I've decided to hold another wedding with Makoto, then register the marriage." After that, she paused. "I'll have Makoto move in." The wedding date was set for 7 days later, the same day as my fortune reversal marriage. That was fine. After that day, our paths would completely diverge. Just as Sophia thought I wouldn't respond and turned to leave, I spoke calmly. "I wish you happiness." Her steps faltered, and she left quickly. 2 days later, Sophia came to find me again. "Makoto's wedding attire needs to be reselect. He's old and can't handle too much trouble. You'll go help him try them on." After announcing it, Sophia left straight away, not giving me any chance to refuse. I shook my head and smiled bitterly. I knew why she was doing this, to make me give up completely, but there was no need. The moment she said, "I don't love you anymore," my heart had already died, beyond saving. At the bridal shop, Makoto deliberately tormented me, making me try on wedding outfits one after another, while Sophia acted as if she saw nothing, sitting on the sofa with Makoto, holding him close, drinking tea and reading the newspaper. When my vision darkened and I nearly collapsed, Sophia gently wiped Makoto's mouth. When my feet were rubbed raw and blood soaked through my shoes and socks, Sophia indulgently brushed the stray hair from Makoto's forehead. After the 1000th outfit, Makoto finally nodded in satisfaction. "Sophia, this one." He went to change into the wedding attire. My body went limp, and I had to grab the wall to keep from falling. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Sophia walking toward me, her hand reaching out. I froze, but the next second, she pulled out her phone and handed it to me, saying flatly, "Hold this, record for us." Then she walked toward the fitting room, pinned Makoto, who had just stepped out, against the mirror, and kissed him fiercely. I calmly pressed the record button. If this had been before, I would have hurt so badly I couldn't breathe. But now, there wasn't a ripple left in my heart. A shop assistant said nearby, "You must be their grandson, right? Your grandma really loves your grandpa, wishing them a long life together." I chuckled softly. Yes, I was only 18, while Sophia was 62. Only by being with Makoto, someone her own age, would she receive blessings. With me, there would only ever be shame. Chapter 6. I returned home exhausted and saw the wedding attire laid out in my room. It had been sent by the Liu family, far more luxurious and refined than the one Makoto had chosen earlier that day. After putting it on, I looked at myself in the mirror and smiled with relief. Not bad at all. 5 days later, on the same day, Sophia and I would each begin a new marriage. 2 intersecting lines would finally move into parallel paths. 3 days before the wedding, the villa suddenly caught fire. All the servants were on leave that day. No one raised the alarm. I had taken sleeping pills and was sleeping deeply. When I woke up choking, the hallway was already engulfed in flames, thick smoke and scorching heat rolling violently. I wrapped a wet towel around myself and ran out. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Sophia in the study, unconscious from the smoke. I turned back, hoisted her onto my body, and struggled toward the exit. "George, you mustn't let anything happen to him." Hearing that cry, my entire body trembled. But when I remembered that Makoto had stayed at the villa the night before, I understood. Sophia was calling for me to save Makoto. So after getting Sophia out safely, I rushed back in to save Makoto. The fire burned more fiercely, almost completely cutting off all escape routes. But thinking of Sophia's desperate plea, I clenched my teeth. I had to get Makoto out safely, to give him back to Sophia. So at the final moment, when a beam crashed down with a thunderous roar, I pushed Makoto out without hesitation. I was struck unconscious by the falling debris. I woke up in excruciating pain, my entire body feeling as if my bones had been torn apart and reassembled. I was lying in the room after the fire had been extinguished. My injuries had already been treated and bandaged by a private doctor. Noah burst in and slammed a cup onto the coffee table. "Why didn't you burn to death in the fire?" I didn't argue with him. I only asked, "How is your grandma?" "Humph." Noah glared at me fiercely. "You stood by and watched my grandma die, and you still have the nerve to ask about her?" I asked, "What did you say?" Seeing my innocent expression only made Noah angrier. He said, "When the fire broke out, you were the only one awake in the house, but you only cared about saving yourself. If Grandpa Ito hadn't woken up in time to save Grandma, she would have died. Even if Grandma doesn't love you anymore, how could you be so vicious and let her die? You deserve to get crushed by that beam." I froze. Then tears surged out uncontrollably. I hate being wronged more than anything, because once I'm wronged, I can't stop myself from crying, no matter how hard I try. Noah was startled. Why are you crying? What right do you have to cry?" "Noah," I said, my voice trembling, "if I told you that it was me who saved your grandma, would you believe me?" Noah snapped back without hesitation. "Of course not. I'm warning you, don't even think about stealing Grandpa Ito's credit. Grandma and Mom will never believe you." I buried my head deep into the blanket and bit down hard on my teeth. Noah was right. In this family, no one would ever believe me, so there was no need for me to explain anything. Let them keep misunderstanding me. After Noah left, noise filled the hallway. The servants unlocked the master bedroom that had been sealed for 18 years and began moving out everything that belonged to me, because Sophia planned to let Makoto move in after the wedding. Watching the diaries, love letters, and postcards between Sophia and me get thrown into the fireplace. Watching the scarves and gloves I had knitted for her tossed into the trash. Watching everything that proved we had once loved each other be destroyed. My already dead heart felt no pain at all, since Sophia had already stepped out of the past and begun a new life. I should let go as well. 2 days before the wedding, I went out early and headed to the wishing tree on the mountaintop. 40 years ago, Sophia and I had tied red ribbons there, wishing to grow old together. Now, the person she wanted to grow old with was no longer me, and the red ribbon should be untied. When I reached the tree, I found that Sophia had already removed it and thrown it into the trash. We looked at each other. Neither of us spoke, yet we tacitly moved on to the next place together. We went to the Heartlink Bridge and cut the love lock. We went to Lover's Park and chopped down the phoenix tree. Finally, we went to the cemetery. On the gravestone was a 40-year-old version of me, hair already graying, yet eyes bright and alive. Standing before the grave, I was 18, handsome and youthful, yet my eyes were completely empty. Sophia placed a bouquet of chrysanthemums. Her voice was old and hoarse. "The day after tomorrow, I'm remarrying George. Goodbye. Let's be husband and wife again in the next life." It was unclear whether she was speaking to the gravestone or to the person standing beside her, but she didn't know. There would be no next life for us. I silently looked at her. The day after tomorrow, we would each go on our respective honeymoons. The matter of the wager with the gods no longer needed to be mentioned. In the early hours of the morning, inside the study, Sophia smoked one cigarette after another. Suddenly, Noah stumbled in, panic-stricken. "Grandma, yesterday Grandpa cried so badly that I couldn't bear it. So I went to investigate, and I found out the one who really saved you was him. Grandpa Ito was the one who took credit for it." Chapter 7. Noah thought that after he said those words, his grandmother would be as shocked as he was, but Sophia remained unmoved, or rather, she had already known the truth. Sure enough, she spoke hoarsely. "I knew it a long time ago. But your grandpa is only 18. There's no possibility for us. So I let Makoto take the credit. As for why Makoto did that, maybe he just lacks a sense of security. That's why I let him move into your grandpa's master bedroom." Noah froze completely. His mind stopped working. In the end, Sophia instructed him, "Don't tell your grandpa about tonight. I want him to give up on me completely." Noah couldn't understand it. He didn't sleep at all that night. The next day, inspiration struck him. He barged into the study. "Grandma, I've thought of a good idea. Why don't we arrange a marriage alliance for Grandpa? That way, he'll completely give up on you." Bang. The teacup in Sophia's hand shattered on the floor. "No." There was an obsessive edge hidden in her voice. "Your grandpa cannot marry anyone else." Noah was confused and was just about to ask why when Jasmine walked in with a dark expression. "Mom, He's causing trouble again and ruining your wedding with Uncle Ito. This time it's extremely outrageous. He openly said online that he's your long-dead husband. Tomorrow was my wedding. I stroked the golden retriever's head and said softly, Xiao Huang, I'm going very far away. I won't be coming back. From now on, behave yourself in the Kim household. The dog seemed to understand, letting out a soft whimper as it looked at me. Suddenly, the door was kicked open violently. All 3 members of the Kim family stormed in, faces filled with anger. I stood up. What happened? I knew that if there wasn't a problem, they would never come looking for me. But the next second, without a word, Sophia raised her hand and slapped me hard. You actually tried to use public opinion to force me to marry you. How despicable. My face was knocked to the side, blood seeping from the corner of my mouth. This was the first time Sophia had ever hit me. I asked, what are you talking about? It wasn't me. Jasmine shoved the trending news in front of me, then pushed me hard and scolded me. Who else but you would post this online? My mom is marrying Uncle Ito tomorrow. How dare you still harbor delusions about her? She didn't hold back at all. My head slammed into the bedside cabinet, blood pouring down. A trace of hesitation flashed through Noah's eyes, but he still spoke coldly. How many times have we said it? We can't accept an 18-year-old you. Give up as soon as possible. In the past, whenever I was wronged, I would cry. But this time, my eyes burned with soreness, yet not a single tear fell. I was so exhausted that I didn't even have the strength to cry. Staring at the 3 cold, retreating backs, I murmured softly, actually, I gave up a long time ago. You'll know tomorrow. The trending topic was quickly suppressed. Resurrection was too bizarre. No one believed it anyway. The moon set. The sun rose. Soon, it was the wedding day. Not long after the Kim family departed, the Liu family's bridal convoy arrived. The butler looked at me in confusion, seeing me dressed in wedding attire. Where are you going? I'm marrying into another family, I said calmly. Please tell Sophia that I will never bother her again. After smiling and saying that, I got into the car without looking back. But when I got out, I discovered that the hotel chosen by the Liu family was the same one as the Kim families. Sophia and Makoto's wedding had already begun. They were at the ring exchange ceremony. Sophia's hand trembled as she held the ring. For some reason, an inexplicable sense of panic rose in her heart. Uncontrollably, her mind replayed the scene of marrying me more than 40 years ago. Back then, the family was poor. We couldn't even afford wedding clothes. I had torn down a red curtain to make a bridal outfit. Her memories were so chaotic that she accidentally dropped the ring to the ground several times. Sophia bent down to pick it up, but suddenly caught sight of a figure in wedding attire passing by the entrance. That side profile. It was the husband she had once longed for day and night, yet now avoided like a viper. 18-year-old me. The next second, cries rang out in the banquet hall. Mom. Grandma, where are you going? Before Sophia's mind could react, her body had already rushed out on its own. Chapter 8. A tremendous force yanked her back. Sophia froze and turned around, only to see her daughter, Jasmine, gripping her arm tightly. There was worry in her eyes, confusion, and a faint trace of displeasure. Mom, all the guests are watching you. What are you trying to do? Only then did Sophia belatedly realize. She had already rushed to the entrance. She said, Jasmine, I just saw your dad. He was wearing wedding clothes and went into the banquet hall across the way. I need to find him. I can't let him marry someone else. I absolutely won't allow it. Her words came out disjointed and frantic. Jasmine was stunned for a moment, then frowned. Mom, are your eyes failing you? You must be hallucinating. Dad is clearly at home sleeping. How could he be here? Besides, he loves you so much. Just yesterday he was still trying to sabotage your wedding with Uncle Ito. How could he possibly bear to marry someone else? You must have seen wrong. Don't overthink it. Uncle Ito is still waiting for you on stage. Come back quickly. If you're really worried, I'll have Noah go check the other side. Sophia lowered her gaze and thought for a moment, then finally relaxed a little. Her daughter was right. Maybe she really had seen wrong. Jasmine shot Noah a look, then half supported, half dragged Sophia back inside. Makoto stood awkwardly on the stage. He hadn't heard the conversation clearly, only vaguely catching George's name. A surge of intense jealousy flooded his chest. Makoto hated it deeply. He didn't know what tricks that bastard had used to nearly make Sophia abandon him. No, this happiness, earned after 18 years of pursuit, he would never let it go. Makoto stepped forward and held Sophia's arm, saying pitifully, You scared me to death. You suddenly ran out just now. I thought you didn't want me anymore. Sophia frowned. Looking at Makoto's pitiful expression, she felt no tenderness at all, only an inexplicable sense of irritation. Even though he tried so hard to imitate George, some things still revealed his true nature. For example, right now, George would never have said something so humble and insecure. Suddenly, Sophia thought of something. Ever since George came back to life, He had followed behind her so humbly, begging her to spare him a glance. That cautious, self-effacing, was completely unlike him. A fine, sharp pain pierced her heart. Her chest felt inexplicably heavy. Seeing her marry someone else today, George must be in unbearable pain right now. But there was no choice. After all, he was only 18. Her daughter's shout snapped Sophia out of her thoughts. Mom, the officiant has asked you several times already, why aren't you answering? Uncle Ito and everyone else are waiting for you. Makoto Ito hurriedly smoothed things over. Jasmine, your mom might just be too tired lately. I'm fine. He then turned to the officiant. Sir, please continue. The officiant cleared his throat and asked loudly. Ms. Kim, are you willing to marry Mr. Ito, whether in poverty or wealth? At that moment, Noah came stumbling in, breathless. Sophia's slightly parted lips froze. She stared straight at Noah. Quick, tell Grandma. Is the groom in the banquet hall across the way, your grandpa? Chapter 9. Makoto froze for a moment, then was overcome with wild joy. George was marrying someone else. From now on, Sophia would belong to him completely. Noah lowered his eyes, hesitating. The person over there. Earlier, his mother had told him to go check the other banquet hall. He really had seen Grandpa there, which scared him badly. He'd rushed back, intending to tell Grandma, but seeing the ceremony about to be completed on stage, he hesitated. Ever since he could remember, Grandpa Ito had always been the one accompanying their family. Subconsciously, he had already accepted Grandpa Ito as family. As for that 18-year-old biological grandfather, maybe it was better if he left. Let him stay far away from Grandma and Mom. After all, both Grandma and Mom hated him. So Noah said. No. He looked up. It's not Grandpa. Jasmine's tightly clenched hands slowly relaxed. She smiled at Sophia. Mom, see, I told you, you saw wrong. How could Dad possibly marry someone else? Sophia let out a long breath, finally reassured. Makoto, however, looked disappointed, unable to hide his frustration. In the end, the wedding was completed amid everyone's hidden thoughts. By the time they got home, night had already fallen completely. Makoto was grinning from ear to ear. Sophia, can I move into the master bedroom tonight? Jasmine laughed beside him. Uncle Ito, do you even need to ask? From now on, you're the man of the house. Noah, hurry and move Grandpa Ito's things upstairs. No. Sophia cut her off sharply. The master bedroom belongs to George. Makoto, you'll continue staying in the guest room. Everyone froze. Makoto's eyes reddened with jealousy, but Sophia gave no one a chance to question her. She went straight upstairs. She knocked on George's door. Today was her wedding. George must be in a bad mood. She felt she should come comfort him, but after knocking for a long time, there was no response. Sophia frowned. The unease in her heart grew stronger and stronger. She suddenly pushed the door open. The room was empty, spotless and immaculate. The quilt folded neatly, the yarn ball George kept by the bed, the books on the desk, everything related to him was gone, as if he had never lived there at all. Her heart pounded wildly. Sophia panicked and ran downstairs. Jasmine, your dad is gone. Did he never come back at all? Were the past 2 months just a dream I had? Tell me now. She collapsed in the living room. Her aged voice trembled with sobs, suddenly fragile and helpless like a child. Jasmine was stunned too, beginning to wonder whether she and her mother had both hallucinated. Had they shared a 2-month-long dream? The butler hesitated for a long time before finally speaking up. Madam, miss, it wasn't a dream. Mr. Wang really did come back. It's just that this morning, he married into another family. Buzz. Sophia's head exploded. It was as if she had been struck by lightning. She fell heavily to the ground, her head bleeding, but she ignored the pain and stared at the butler in trembling disbelief. Why you? What did you say? Did George bribe you to lie to me? It must be that. He loves me so much. How could he bear to marry someone else? She muttered to herself, then suddenly laughed. She said, he must be angry that I married Makoto. There's no way he'd really marry someone else. But the butler's words shattered her illusion. Madam, Mr. Wang left wearing wedding attire with the bridal convoy. I heard the driver say the banquet venue was the same one where you got married. Didn't you run into him? Sophia's mind went completely blank. Suddenly, she remembered the figure she had seen that morning. So it really had been George. Noah shrank back, lowering his head and trying to slip away. But a stern voice rang out, carrying surging anger. Noah, how dare you lie to me? Sensing the tension, Makoto tactfully went upstairs. Sophia was furious right now. It was better to avoid her for the moment. Anyway, George was gone. He could finally be at ease. Noah didn't dare make a sound, wishing he could bury his head into the ground. He didn't understand. Why was Grandma reacting so strongly? Hadn't she always treated Grandpa like a plague? Hated him deeply. Now that Grandpa was gone, shouldn't she be happy? Jasmine stepped in front of her son protectively and said unhappily, Mom, why are you scolding Noah? This was all Dad's scheme. Yesterday he failed to stir up public opinion. So today he deliberately showed up at your wedding with Uncle Ito wearing wedding clothes. Noah didn't tell you, didn't let you fall for it. You should be thanking Noah instead. Sophia's eyes were filled with confusion. Was George doing it on purpose? She wanted to believe what her daughter said, but uncontrollably. She remembered what George had said half a month ago. After Jasmine had smashed his room. I'll leave soon. I'll marry into another family. Back then, she had thought he was joking. But now, she didn't dare think further. Jasmine continued persuading her. Mom, stop worrying. When Dad sees that no one cares, he'll definitely come back obediently tomorrow. Don't worry, he can't live without us. Tonight is your wedding night with Uncle Ito. Don't waste your time on Dad. Sophia shook her head. She didn't dare gamble anymore. Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance that George would leave, she couldn't accept it. She had to find him as soon as possible. Assistant Wu, go check Mr. Wang's whereabouts. Chairwoman Kim, didn't Mr. Wang come home with you? Anger flared in Sophia's chest. I'm talking about George. Go check, now. The assistant was confused. Hadn't Chairwoman Kim stopped caring about Mr. Wang long ago? Still, he obeyed. 10 minutes later, he called back in panic. Chairwoman Kim, this is bad. Mr. Wang, he's gone to the Liu family for a fortune reversal marriage. Chapter 10. Everyone froze. The air pressure in the living room dropped to freezing point in an instant. Jasmine was the first to react, shaking with shock. She cried out, Dad, he actually left. Noah murmured in a low voice. Fortune reversal marriage. He suddenly raised his voice. Grandpa went to the Liu family to borrow joy to change fate. He left because of me, so the person who took my place was Grandpa all along. As for Sophia, she didn't know whether to cry or laugh. She stood there stiffly, like a statue. George really had left, but he had done it to help the Kim family. She never imagined that after the way they had all treated him, he would still love this family so deeply, even sacrificing himself for Noah. I'm sorry, George. Sophia clawed at her hair in a daze, tears streaming down uncontrollably. 40 years ago, when they got married, she had sworn she would never let George suffer. Yet all these years with her, George had shouldered the household chores and managed the company, suffering non-stop. Later, he even died in a car accident while saving the whole family. He had never lived a single good day. In fact, on the day George was resurrected, after the initial shock, she had desperately wanted to throw herself into his arms. But her daughter interrupted first, saying she couldn't accept having an 18-year-old father. Taking her daughter's feelings and her own reputation into account, she finally withdrew the hand she had stretched out halfway. These past 2 months, she had been cold to George while forcing him to give up. She was also torturing herself, yet she kept telling herself that for the greater good, this was the right thing to do. But now that George was truly gone, she realized she couldn't live without him. She simply couldn't bear to lose him again. So, Sophia staggered and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Jasmine rushed to support her. Mom, are you okay? Sophia shoved her away, stared at the still dazed Noah, and said in an unquestionable tone, Get ready. Tomorrow, you're going to the Liu family, replace your grandfather and bring him back. Noah snapped back to reality, trembling as he stumbled backward, tears pouring out instantly. No, Grandma, I won't go. How can you bear to push me into a pit of fire? Jasmine was completely stunned, then exploded in rage. Mom, Dad is just surplus baggage. If he's gone, so be it. Good riddance. Have you forgotten how many scandals he caused? Our reputations and the company's stock price all took hits. He even bullied Uncle Ito and threw this whole family into chaos. I'm telling you right now, I will never allow Noah to go. And don't even think about bringing Dad back. Sophia let out a dark, cold laugh. This family, you don't get to decide. Then she looked at the deathly pale Noah. If you'd told the truth this morning, there might still have been room to maneuver. But now, you must go. Grandma, you can't sacrifice me. Noah sobbed uncontrollably. You've already married Grandpa Ito. Why do you still insist on bringing Grandpa back? If he leaves, isn't that better for everyone? Jasmine tapped rapidly on her phone, then stepped in front of Noah protectively and glared at Sophia. Noah's right. He should leave. And besides, it's too late to switch people now. The Liu family's 100 billion just came in. I already had my assistant use it to plug the holes. Every last bit is gone. You don't have the money to replace him anymore. Sophia clutched her chest tightly, nearly unable to catch her breath. She glared hatefully at her daughter and grandson. After a long moment, she suddenly laughed. Fine, Jasmine, you're really something. With that, she slammed the door and stormed out, her expression dark and terrifying. First, they had forced her into being unable to acknowledge George. Now, they wouldn't even let her bring him back. Since that was the case, they couldn't blame her, as an elder, for being ruthless. Noah was shivering all over. He said, Mom, Grandma looked so scary just now. She won't have me tied up and sent to the Liu family, will she? Jasmine was uneasy too. This was the first time she had directly confronted her mother. Still, she comforted her son. Don't worry, this is over. With Mom here, I won't let you go borrow joy to change fate for some vegetative patient. She might not like Noah's father, but she genuinely loved her son. She cursed her mother inwardly for going too far, actually trying to sacrifice her grandson for George. She would never allow it. Back in his room, Noah didn't dare sleep. He immediately bought a plane ticket, preparing to flee the country. He absolutely could not go to the Liu family to do such superstitious nonsense, because he had someone he loved. A year ago, he had accidentally fallen into the Jing River. A woman jumped in to save him. He fell in love with her, and in this lifetime, he would marry no one but her. Jasmine also didn't sleep well all night. The next day, when she went to the company with dark circles under her eyes, she noticed the employees looking at her strangely. When she reached the top floor, she discovered that her mother had stripped her of her CEO position, and that 100 billion had all been taken back by her mother. In the chairman's office, Sophia gave a low command to assistant Wu. Contact the Liu family for me. Tell them I'll have Noah tied up and sent over immediately. I don't even need the 100 billion back, as long as George is returned. They can name any condition they want. Jasmine kicked the door open violently. Mom, if you dare do this, I'll hate you for the rest of my life. Noah will never forgive you either. Sophia replied indifferently. It doesn't matter. I only want George back. As for descendants like you, I stopped wanting you a long time ago. If you hadn't blocked me back then, how would I have been unable to acknowledge George? You were the ones who forced him away. Hearing her mother dump all the blame on them, Jasmine's fury exploded. She said, you were the one who chose to be cold to him. No one forced you. You were the one publicly flaunting affection with Uncle Ito. Did I hold a knife to your throat and make you do that? You, Sophia slapped her daughter hard across the face and raised her hand to strike again. When the assistant stumbled in, Chairwoman Kim, the Liu family refused. Chairman Liu said that Mr. George arrived just yesterday, and Miss Liu woke up immediately. The two of them fell in love at first sight, and this morning, they already left on their honeymoon. Chapter 11. On the private jet, Willow tucked a blanket around me and asked softly, is the air conditioning temperature okay? Do you want me to adjust it? It's fine. No need, I replied. As I spoke, a faint blush swept quickly across my cheeks. Last night, the moment I stepped into the Liu family home, Willow Liu opened her eyes. All her medical indicators returned to normal. She was even more energetic than a healthy person. Everyone in the Liu family treated me like a lucky charm, so excited they were practically ready to kneel and thank me. Willow was 175 centimeters tall, with delicate features and stunning beauty, almost unreal. What was even more unbelievable was that she fell in love with me at first sight. She confessed on the spot, saying she wanted to spend her life with me. I was so shocked that I froze, thinking she must be joking. But Willow seriously told me a story from her past. A year ago, after she was discharged from the army, she jumped into the Jing River to save a drowning boy. Unfortunately, she was swept into the sea by an undercurrent, struck her head on a reef, and became a vegetative patient. The doctors had already declared her brain dead, and indeed, her soul had gone to heaven, because she had acted bravely to save someone. The God of heaven granted her a position. Yet every day, she could still hear her parents' cries, so she offered up all her accumulated merit, begging the God of heaven to let her return. In the end, the God of heaven agreed, but only on the condition that she wait for the divine messenger before she could be revived. And so Willow waited, and waited, until she finally met me. After hearing her story, I was deeply astonished, and filled with a sense of bittersweet emotion. If I had chosen to stay with the Kim family and never come to the Liu family, would someone as wonderful as Willow have remained asleep forever? As I was lost in thought, she held my hand and said solemnly, George, you are my lucky star. You are the benefactor of our Liu family. You are kind and beautiful inside, and you deserve the very best. Even if you don't love me, it doesn't matter, I will let you go. But remember this, no matter where you go, the Liu family will always be your support. My eyes instantly reddened. Since my resurrection, no one had ever shown me such pure kindness. I had already developed feelings for this woman I had just met, but I knew I had to tell her about my past with the Kim family. I thought that after hearing it, she would see me as a monster, just like her children and grandchildren had, and feel disgusted by me. But none of that happened. She held me tenderly, comforting me again and again. George, it's all in the past now. Let's start a new life together. I froze. What shocked me even more was that Father Liu and Mother Liu didn't mind at all. They even gently advised me not to dwell on the past, but to look forward. Only at that moment did the shadow hanging over my heart finally dissipate completely. On the plane, I gazed out through the window at the blue sky and white clouds, stretching endlessly, just like my mood today, bright and clear. Willow held my hand and said, George, you're only 18. The future holds infinite possibilities. You can build your own career, pursue your passions, there's so much you can do. Her slender hand was soft and warm, the warmth traveling all the way to my heart. I smiled openly. In my previous life, I had revolved entirely around Sophia and truly neglected my own growth. She was right, being resurrected was equivalent to being reborn. This life had nothing to do with the last one. Before, I had resented the God of heaven countless times, wondering why I had been turned into an 18-year-old. But now, I felt nothing but gratitude. Youth meant endless possibilities. It meant I could live a life completely different from my previous one. I took the initiative to interlace my fingers with hers. Looking at the gentle profile of the woman beside me, I made a vow in my heart. From this moment on, I would completely forget the past and walk toward a new life. Chapter 12. Not long after George left, Sophia arrived at the Liu family with an astronomical contract. She didn't believe in so-called love at first sight. She and George had shared decades of history. How could he possibly fall in love with someone else overnight? This had to be the Liu family's way of driving up the price, so she decided to concede 50% of the profits from all 100 billion level projects and was even willing to become a downstream partner of the Liu family. Although the Kim family couldn't compare to the Liu family's century-old legacy, decades of accumulation were still more than enough to help the Liu family crush every competitor in S-City. Sophia couldn't think of a single reason why the Liu family would refuse. Yet Chairman Liu didn't even glance at the contract. He pushed it back calmly and said lightly, "George is our family, not a commodity for trade. Besides, my daughter loves George. I will never sell him." Sophia clenched her fists tightly. Having dominated the business world for decades, she had long mastered the art of hiding her emotions, but just now, she had almost lost control of her temper. "Chairman Liu," she forced out an ugly smile, even the muscles at the corners of her mouth trembling. "You and your daughter may not know this, but although George looks 18, he is actually my husband, resurrected after death." "I know." Before she could finish, Chairman Liu interrupted calmly. "My daughter knows as well." This time, Sophia was completely stunned. She couldn't understand why Chairman Liu was so composed. Shouldn't he see George as a monster and be so disgusted that he'd want to push him away? "Chairwoman Kim, since George has been reborn, it's equivalent to living a second life. Everything between you belongs to his previous life and has no bearing on his current one." Those words struck Sophia's mind like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. That's right. After George's rebirth, it was like becoming a new person. He could choose to rekindle his past with her, or he could choose a brand new beginning. But she couldn't accept that. She said, "Chairman Liu, George and I loved each other for decades. What he promised your daughter was just a moment of spite toward me. Once he cools down, he'll definitely return to my side." "Is that so?" Chairman Liu raised an eyebrow with mild interest. "If George is willing to go back, the Liu family will never stop him." Hearing Chairman Liu relent, Sophia finally let out a breath of relief. When she left, she deliberately straightened her back, standing tall. Chairman Liu, however, let out a mocking laugh. "After everything your Kim family did to George, you still expect him to go back? And where does your confidence come from, that he'd abandon my beautiful daughter just to return to an old, wretched woman like you?" Kim family villa. Makoto stretched lazily and pushed open the door, only to find the house completely empty. Last night, after he came in, he went straight to shower. He was so exhausted that he fell asleep in the bathtub. Vaguely, he heard the three members of the Kim family having a fierce argument, but by the time he came out, it was already over. So he had no idea what had happened, but he didn't care much. As long as George was gone, he had nothing to fear. "Butler, where's breakfast? Why hasn't it been brought to my room yet?" The butler frowned and went upstairs. Makoto imitated George in every way, but unlike the gentleman's natural warmth, he relied on his status as a highly educated elite and looked down on workers from the bottom of his heart. He also put on airs in front of the Kim family, acting pretentious to the extreme. The butler had always despised Makoto, yet the Kim family treated him like a treasure. Makoto cut into his fried egg with knife and fork and asked casually, "What happened last night?" The butler replied flatly. After Madam learned that Mr. Wang had gone to the Liu family, she regretted it deeply and wanted to send young Master Noah in exchange for bringing Sir back. Clang! The knife slipped from Makoto's hand and fell to the floor, cutting the top of his foot, but he didn't even bother to stop the bleeding. He grabbed his phone and rushed out. He was jealous to the point of madness. Why? After everything he had done, did Sophia still love George? He arranged to meet a reporter by the artificial lake. Handing over a thick stack of photos, he spoke the most vicious words in the gentlest tone. 100 million. This time, you must blow it up big. Not only write about how shamelessly he seduced the Kim family's mother and daughter, but also write that he went clubbing and slept around with women. Makoto ground his teeth, his face twisting until wrinkles piled together. This time, he would make sure George could never make a comeback. Not only would he never return to the Kim family, but the Liu family would be forced to kick him out as well. What he didn't notice was that not far away, Sophia was standing there, and she had heard everything. Chapter 13. Sophia immediately recognized the reporter. It was the very same one who had surrounded George a month ago and beaten him the most viciously. She quietly followed them. The reporter was lowering her head, counting the check with delight, grinning from ear to ear, when suddenly a figure blocked her view, annoyed. She looked up, then froze stiff. Kim. Chairman Kim. Sophia said coldly, "Tell me everything you know, otherwise, from this moment on, not a single company will dare hire you." The more Sophia listened, the darker her expression became. By the end, her entire face was so grim it was terrifying. So it turned out that all the scandals between George and the Kim family's mother and daughter had been bought by Makoto. Even the incident about her dead husband blowing up online the day before the wedding, it had also been Makoto's doing, not George trying to win her back. Suddenly, Sophia remembered how, during this period, George had grown quieter and quieter. He no longer clung to her, no longer cried or made scenes. His eyes had become increasingly hollow. So it was like this. He had already been planning to leave, yet she hadn't noticed a thing. Instead, she had been flaunting affection with Makoto to force him to give up, never imagining that his heart toward her had already died. Her heart hurt as if it were being torn open alive, cold air rushing straight in. The pain was so intense that Sophia could barely stand. She should have realized it earlier. With George's personality, when he loved fiercely and openly. When he stopped loving, he let go cleanly. He was stubborn and proud. How could he keep entangling himself endlessly? Especially after she had clearly told him she didn't love him anymore. How ridiculous. She had been deceiving herself all along. On the other side, at the Kim family home, Makoto returned in high spirits. When he saw Jasmine, he cautiously brought it up. "Jasmine, now that I'm married to Sophia, it doesn't seem appropriate for me to keep living in the guest room. What do you think? Can I move into the master bedroom?" Jasmine rubbed her temples. The Liu family had rejected her mother, and Noah no longer needed to go borrow joy to change fate. Maybe once her mother calmed down, she would just continue living her life with Uncle Ito. Thinking this, Jasmine made the decision on her own. "Of course you can. My mom won't have any objections." Last time she was just in a bad mood. So Makoto began directing the servants to move his things into the master bedroom. Halfway through, Sophia came back. When she saw what the servants were doing, her face instantly darkened. "What are you doing? Who gave you permission to enter the master bedroom without authorization?" "Mom, it was me." Jasmine cut in. "You and Uncle Ito are legally married. He's the man of the house. He should be living there." But Sophia didn't even look at her. She stopped the servants and gave a cold, stern order. "Move everything back out the way it was brought in. Throw all these things outside." Makoto poked his head out, stunned. "Sophia, what do you mean by this? Are you kicking me out?" "Yes." Sophia sneered and played a recording. It was the reporter's confession. Makoto's face turned deathly pale, yet he still tried to argue desperately. "It's all a misunderstanding. She framed me. It must be George who bribed her." "Sophia, don't believe." Sophia looked at Makoto coldly, a wave of self-mockery rising in her heart. This hypocritical look of his, how did it resemble George in the slightest? How laughable that she had treated him as George's substitute for so many years, even hurting the person she loved most for the sake of this substitute. Makoto. Sophia's face was icy, and her words were a direct death sentence. "I saw you meeting that reporter just now. I was standing right behind you." All excuses came to an abrupt halt. Makoto collapsed to the floor instantly, trembling in fear. "I'm sorry, Sophia," he cried. "I was just too insecure. Mr. Wang is young and handsome, and he's the husband you loved deeply in your youth. I was scared he'd take you away from me. I've loved you for 18 years. I really can't lose you." But Sophia wasn't moved in the slightest. She let out a cold laugh. "I have always belonged to George. I never belonged to you. How could he be stealing me?" Makoto shook his head frantically, tears dropping heavily one after another. "I don't believe it. Sophia, you treated me so well for 18 years. I don't believe you never loved me at all." Sophia replied calmly. "That was because you looked like George." The sobbing stopped abruptly. Makoto stared at her in a daze, his heart feeling as if it were being sliced apart. 18 years. He had thought that, at the very least, he held some place in Sophia's heart. But looking into the woman's icy, frost-cold eyes, no matter how much he wanted to deceive himself, he had to admit it. Sophia had never loved him, not even a little. Jasmine rushed forward and helped Makoto up. "Mom, Uncle Ito is your lifesaver. How can you treat him like this?" Makoto's eyes flickered. He suddenly lunged forward, grabbing Sophia's hand. "Yes, it was me who risked my life to save you in that fire. And George, he was afraid of death and abandoned you. Sophia, I'm the one who loves you most." This was his final trump card. He believed that with this debt of gratitude, Sophia would surely forgive him. But the very next second, a heavy slap landed squarely across his face, sharp and loud. Chapter 14. Makoto let out a sharp scream and staggered backward without warning. If not for Jasmine catching him in time, he would have fallen down the stairs. Before he could speak, Jasmine exploded first. Mom, have you lost your mind? Sophia looked at her daughter as if she were an idiot. The one who saved me was your father. He was the one who stole the credit. Jasmine froze, then laughed and shook her head, the look in her eyes full of contempt. Mom, even if you want to make excuses to bring Dad back, you can't just slander Uncle Ito like this. That's unfair to him. Sophia felt her chest tighten. She summoned the butler and played the surveillance footage from that day. This time, Jasmine was left speechless, standing there in disbelief. Next, Sophia played the reporter's recording for her. Jasmine was completely stunned. She suddenly turned her head and stared at Makoto. So you're the mastermind behind ruining my reputation? Makoto shrank back in fear. Jasmine's gaze was terrifying, as if it could kill. Makoto licked his lips. I'm sorry, Jasmine. Listen to my explanation. Jasmine raised her hand and shoved him down the stairs, saying viciously, I don't want to hear your lies. You knew reputation mattered most to me, yet you still dared to do that. My mom is right. You're not worthy of stepping into my family. Someone come. Throw this bastard, along with all his things, out of the neighborhood. With her bottom line crossed, Jasmine was like a cat with its fur blown up, baring her claws at Makoto, just like she once did to George. When Sophia went downstairs, Makoto, lying in a pool of blood, reached out and grabbed the hem of her pants. Please, don't drive me away. I stayed with you for 18 years, after all. Sophia coldly shook him off, her voice cruel and devoid of any warmth. If it weren't for the fact that you once treated my illness, just for bullying my husband alone, I would have made sure you were ruined and sent to prison. Seeing that begging Sophia was useless, Makoto turned to Jasmine. Jasmine, I was wrong. I shouldn't have used you to scheme against your father. Please forgive Uncle Ito this once. Let's keep being a family. Jasmine was still furious. She stepped on his hand and ground it down hard, only lifting her foot after crushing his finger bones. After the shrill screams stopped, Jasmine said coldly, Get lost. From now on, every time I see you, I'll beat you. Makoto lay helplessly in the pool of blood, then was mercilessly thrown out onto the street. He couldn't understand it. After driving George away, shouldn't he have been pampered by the Kim family? Why was everyone trying to throw him out? Right, there was still Noah. Kids were the easiest to win over. He had persisted for 18 years. He wouldn't give up so easily. For the next month, Noah stayed in hotels, spending the rest of his time at clubs, because he hadn't told his grandmother in time about his grandfather's marriage, and because his grandfather had borrowed Joy to change fate for him. He was so scared that he didn't dare go home, but he was used to spending money like water, and soon, the money in his card was gone. That day, he ordered $3 million worth of alcohol, but kept getting notifications of insufficient balance. Left with no choice, he called his mother. When Jasmine arrived and frowned as she swiped her card, she was also told there was no money. Since she was no longer the CEO, she only had dividend income left. After angering her mother with what happened before, her cards had been frozen. Now, like Noah, she was living off her savings. In the end, with no other option, Jasmine swallowed her pride and called her best friend. Her friend's jaw dropped. Holy crap, a dignified CEO, and you can't even take out $3 million. Hitting a sore spot, Jasmine's face darkened, but she still had to explain what had been happening in the Kim family lately. She had bottled it up for too long. She needed to vent. The more her friend listened, the more serious her expression became. By the end, she smacked Jasmine on the head. You're an idiot. My mom found a substitute too, just like yours. But I hate that stepdad, no matter how similar he looks. He's not my dad. If my dad died and came back to life, I'd be over the moon. I wouldn't care if he was a young guy or an old man. I'd cherish him with everything I have and never let him suffer even a bit. Jasmine froze, shocked by her friend's reaction. She suddenly remembered how, back then, she had damaged her kidney while drag racing. George hadn't hesitated for a second before donating one of his kidneys to her. And another time, when she was harassed by a group of drunk men, George happened to pass by. He grabbed a wooden stick and charged in. By the end of the fight, splinters had pierced his palm, and his right hand was nearly crippled. To this day, it still ached unbearably whenever it rained. Her father had been so good to her, and had suffered so much. Her friend was right. Since everything had started over, she should have protected her father and spared him from all that suffering again. But what had she done? She despised him, resisted him, pushed him farther and farther away, until she forced him to leave. As a daughter, she truly deserved to die for it. After seeing her friend off, Jasmine sat there numbly for the entire night. The next day, when Noah sobered up, she grabbed him and took him home. Let's go. We're going to apologize to your grandma, and then, together, beg your grandpa to come home. Noah was a bit dazed by his mother's sudden change, but he had wanted to go home for a long time. He was just afraid of his grandmother, with his mother giving him an out. Of course he took it. Still, he couldn't help asking, Mom, after the way we treated Grandpa, will he really come back? Jasmine answered without hesitation. He will. You have no idea how much your grandpa loves us. Chapter 15. 2 months later. Iceland Airport. I carried Willow, her body limp and boneless, onto the plane. My face was so red it felt like it was on fire. Because just moments ago, Willow had bitten my ear and whispered, "George, which round last night felt the best?" I had originally planned for us to take things slow, to let our feelings develop gradually. But 2 months ago, on the very night our plane landed, we ended up in bed together. And once it started, there was no stopping it. From that point on, she developed a taste for it and clung to me every single day. Just last night, Willow pestered me for 10 rounds. We didn't fall asleep until 4 in the morning. I suddenly realized that the last time I'd been this intense was more than 40 years ago, with Sophia. Now, when that name crossed my mind, I could face it calmly. My heart felt completely still. The Sophia of today was, to me, no different from a stranger. I could only sigh inwardly. Young women really are something else. After lying down on the bed in the plane, she leaned over again, her slender fingers tracing circles on my chest. "Come on, tell me, which time?" "The 7th, I answered casually. She immediately flashed a seductive smile. "Husband, do you want it again right now?" I raised my hand and pushed her back. "Nope, there are so many staff members watching." In the end, we laughed and tumbled together in a playful mess. After she'd had her fun, she hugged me tightly and fell asleep quietly, listening to the strong, steady heartbeat of the woman in my arms. The corners of my lips curved up unconsciously. In the past, I had shut myself off, fixated on making the Kim family accept me. It wasn't until I started this new life that I realized, life at 18 was far more exciting than I had ever imagined. Over these 2 months, she had taken me to travel through more than a dozen countries, and finally to Iceland to see the aurora. In my previous life, I had wanted to see the northern lights. Sophia had even bought the plane tickets, but the day before departure, I died in a car accident. Thankfully, that regret had now been made up for. The flight would take more than 10 hours. Holding her soft, delicate body in my arms, I fell asleep peacefully. Chapter 16. At the same time, City Airport, the 3 members of the Kim family waited anxiously. Sophia had found out that George would be returning today. Over the past 2 months, she had missed him more and more, and regretted more deeply. Why had she forced him to leave back then? There was a secret she had never told anyone. Once, in a dream, she had seen the God of Heaven. The God of Heaven told her that in her next life, she and George would still be husband and wife. She believed it. That was why, when she hurt George before, she told herself that if there was no fate in this life, they could continue it in the next. But it wasn't until George left that she realized, even a single day without seeing him made her so miserable she wanted to die. The age gap she'd worried about, her reputation, her children and grandchildren's opinions, the company's future, none of it mattered anymore. All she wanted was to hold George tightly in her arms and tell him over and over again that she loved him. They waited until after midnight before the plane finally landed. Sophia hurried forward, but the moment she saw the scene before her, it was as if she'd been struck by lightning. George was actually carrying a woman as he walked off the plane. The two of them looked incredibly intimate. Blood rushed to her head. Sophia swallowed down the metallic taste in her throat. George must have known she would be there to pick him up today. He was deliberately being affectionate with someone else to provoke her. That had to be it. Sophia stepped in front of them. "Get off George right now." Willow let out a soft laugh, her eyes filled with provocation. Where did this old hag come from? That single sentence nearly made Sophia spit out a mouthful of blood. No one knew that the true reason she had been unwilling to accept George lay in the deepest part of her heart, her inferiority. She was old and withered, while George was only 18. She couldn't satisfy him in any way. She was afraid George would be disappointed in her, afraid that one day he would despise her and stop loving her. This twisted mentality drove her to push George away. She used Makoto, that substitute, to numb herself. She used the so-called next life to justify her actions. But now, seeing George with another woman, especially a young woman, she was jealous to the point of madness. There was only one thought left in her mind. She was going to take George back. Chapter 17. Just as she stood there stunned, a familiar voice rang out, yet the words spoken were unbearably sharp. I said to Willow, "Honey, ignore her. Let's take another way." As I spoke, I didn't even lift my head to look at her once. Sophia completely lost control and roared hoarsely, "George, stop messing around, will you? I'm your wife. How can you call someone else that?" Willow let out a cold laugh, deliberately stabbing right where it hurt most. "You're already 62. How do you have the nerve to make an 18-year-old boy call you wife?" Sophia froze, instantly rendered speechless. She had once said those exact same words to George herself, but only when the boomerang flew back and struck her did she realize just how painful it was, painful to the bone. I frowned and said, "Sophia, We're over. We've both married other people. Don't come bothering me again. George. No, I divorced Makoto. I interrupted flatly. What does that have to do with me? That's your business. Sophia clenched her fists tightly as she looked at me, her voice angry yet trembling with tears, almost pleading. Can you put her down first, and then talk to me? Willow said unhappily. George has nothing to discuss with you. Willow, get down for a moment. I do need to talk to her, so she won't keep pestering me in the future. At that moment, Jasmine and Noah hurried over. Jasmine was panting, just about to call out Dad, when Noah suddenly let out a shocked cry beside her. Why you're the woman who married my grandpa, the Liu family's daughter. Willow Liu frowned. Is there a problem? Noah was on the verge of tears. He said, don't you recognize me anymore? Do I need to? Willow asked coldly. She had no goodwill toward the Kim family at all. Noah's eyes reddened, and he burst into loud sobs. You're the one who saved me in the Jing River a year ago. How can you not remember me? I've loved you this whole time. I searched for you for an entire year. By the end, Noah was crying so hard he could barely speak. If he had known earlier that Miss Liu was that woman, he would have married her even if she had still been in a vegetative state. Willow, however, had no interest in listening. She turned to Sophia and said, say what you need to say, quickly. Don't delay my time alone with George. Sophia frowned and gestured for Jasmine to pull Noah away. She could barely deal with herself right now. She had no energy to handle Noah's romantic feelings. Once it quieted down, Sophia looked at me and said, I know you still love me. I stopped loving you a long time ago. I cut in calmly. The moment you said you fell in love with Makoto, I stopped loving you. Sophia shook her head. I lied to you, she explained frantically. Back then, I was trying to force you to give up, but later I realized how completely wrong I was. The only one I ever loved was you. George, please believe me. My tone was calm to the point of cruelty. Even if I believe you, so what? I said. I'm only 18. We're not suitable. Those were your words to me, weren't they? You said I was a walking disaster who would bring endless trouble to the Kim family. You said you could never acknowledge me. No, George. Those scandals were all Makoto buying off reporters. It was him who broke us apart. I interrupted her again, mercilessly. Even without him, sooner or later we would have been photographed together. It still would have affected your reputation. I don't care. Sophia stared at me intensely, emotions she'd suppressed for so long erupting like a volcano. She said, as long as you come back with me, I'll publicly acknowledge you to everyone. Even if the whole world spits on me, even if I'm ruined and lose everything, it doesn't matter. I don't care about any of it. I want nothing else. Only you. George, come back with me. I'll place the entire world in front of you and make it up to you. She thought that after such a heartfelt confession, I would be at least a little moved, but I remained indifferent, looking at her as if she were a stranger. Instead, Willow smiled and clapped her hands. Chairwoman Kim, that was quite a performance. But stop dreaming already, an old woman clinging to a young man. She leaned close to Sophia's ear and said softly, in your dreams. Chapter 18. Past 50, yet repeatedly provoked by someone from the younger generation. Sophia's anger was on the verge of exploding. I'm talking to my husband. What does it have to do with you? Get lost. Before Willow could retort, I stepped forward first. The one who should get lost is you. Willow is my wife now. I've already fallen in love with her. Stop making a scene here. Seeing me defend another woman, Sophia felt as if a knife were carving into her heart. George, I don't believe it. We had decades together. You know we had decades together. I sneered back. Then do you know how much it hurt when you said you'd fallen in love with Makoto? I did love you deeply before. After I was revived, I also wanted to start over with you, but you pushed me away again and again. Sophia, hearts can die. When you stood by coldly as I was beaten. When you fought me over my father's belongings for Makoto. When you burned every trace of our love. When you hurt me time and time again, my love for you was completely used up. There's not a shred left now. Sophia shook her head desperately, tears shimmering in her eyes. I'm sorry, George. I was wrong. Please give me one more chance. She instinctively stepped forward to grab me, but Willow shoved her hard. Sophia fell to the ground. Her waist slammed painfully, and no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't get back up. After dropping my final words, I took Willow's hand and left. Sophia, where do you get the confidence to think I'd abandon my young wife for an old woman like you? Willow smiled in satisfaction. Sophia's heart, along with her pride, shattered completely, pieces strewn everywhere. The age gap, once her excuse for rejecting me, had now become an unbridgeable chasm between her and me. No matter how deep our feelings once were, Willow could crush her effortlessly on age alone. She regretted it so much. If only, when I had just returned, she had put aside that dark, hidden inferiority and accepted me openly, would things really have ended up like this? I had barely taken a few steps when Noah blocked my way. With a thud, he dropped to his knees, crying his eyes out. Grandpa, please give Willow to me. I love her. I can't live without her. I frowned. The way Noah looked now, he was like a spoiled child, stubbornly fixated on getting a toy he wanted. Willow spoke coldly. What do you take me for? An object you can just give away? I don't even know you. The one I love is George. Stop acting crazy. With that, she didn't give Noah a chance to say another word. She directly ordered the bodyguards to drag him away. Then she wrapped an arm around me and whispered against my ear, if we run into people like this again, reject them immediately. I'm yours. You're not allowed to give me to anyone. I chuckled and kissed her on the cheek. Got it, honey. After a few more steps, we ran into Jasmine. Willow had lost her patience. You have 1 minute. Jasmine knelt in front of me. Dad, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those hurtful things to you. It's all in the past, I said. Jasmine thought I had forgiven her and was just about to stand up when she heard me continue. But I will never forgive you. Just those words alone severed our father-daughter bond. You told me to get out of your world. I did. So don't come looking for me again. Jasmine stared at me in disbelief and burst into tears. Dad, that was said in anger. It was Makoto. Enough. I cut her off. Don't be like your mother, pushing everything onto others. You're over 40. You're responsible for the words you speak. With that, I turned and left without looking back. Jasmine stood there, clutching her head and sobbing. She wanted to chase after me, but she didn't have the courage. When she saw the devastated Sophia, she rushed over and asked tremblingly, Mom, Dad won't forgive us, will he? He won't, Sophia replied coldly. Jasmine shook her head through tears. She had clearly seen it just now. There was no love left for them in my eyes anymore. Sophia wandered aimlessly. Without realizing it, she found herself outside the Liu family villa. She looked up, wanting to glimpse me through the window, only to be caught completely off guard by two entwined figures. That familiar figure she knew so well slowly pressed down over another woman. Chapter 19. Sophia suddenly rushed inside, only to be stopped at the door by bodyguards. After that, as if punishing herself, she stood in the cold wind, listening to George and Willow again and again. The more passionate the people inside became, the more inferior she felt. By the end, she let out a self-mocking, bitter smile. She couldn't even satisfy his most basic physical needs. How could she possibly still dream of being husband and wife with him again? Lost in despair, a tall, slender figure stopped in front of her. Willow stood there in a black trench coat. The kiss marks on her neck and chest stabbed painfully into Sophia's heart once more. I know everything about you and George. Sophia froze, but then understanding dawned on her. George was exactly that kind of person, someone who would tell everything, without reservation, to the one he loved. It was clear now. George truly loved Willow. I also know how cruelly you treated him before. Willow continued coldly. Sophia, it's not that George wasn't suitable for you, it's that you didn't deserve him. Back when he returned, an 18-year-old boy was willing to continue a relationship with an old, broken-down woman like you. You should have felt grateful and content. But what did you do? You exhausted him both physically and emotionally. Still, I should thank you. If you hadn't forced him away, how could I have married him? After delivering her provocation, Willow suddenly grew serious. George has already forgotten the past and started a new life. If you truly want to repent, then stop appearing in front of him and reopening those wounds. Sophia lowered her head weakly. She didn't even have the courage to meet Willow's eyes. From that day on, Sophia completely collapsed. She drank herself senseless every day, and in just half a year, she drank herself into stomach cancer. She handed the company entirely over to Jasmine, who became so busy she was overwhelmed. On top of that, her son cried and made scenes every day, demanding that she get Willow for him. For the first time, Jasmine felt that her son was unbearably willful and childish. After losing a $100 billion project, she finally slapped him hard. Noah ran out crying, disappearing without a trace, but she had no energy to chase after him. Makoto went looking for Noah, hoping Noah could help him see Sophia one last time. Noah flatly refused. He desperately wanted his grandmother to win George back, then Willow would belong to him. Makoto suddenly thought of something. Taking advantage of Noah being drunk, he whispered poisonous suggestions into his ear. That day, Sophia drank until she suffered massive internal bleeding. The doctors declared her critically ill. Jasmine hesitated. Should she call George to come see her mother one last time? Then, unexpectedly, she ran into me at the hospital, where I had come to accompany Willow for a prenatal checkup. Swallowing her pride, she begged me to go, and to her surprise, I agreed. Willow waited outside the room unhappily. When Sophia saw me, she thought she was hallucinating. She tried to reach out to hug me, but she didn't even have the strength to lift her hand. In the end, she gave up and said weakly, George, in this life, I wronged you. In the next life, let us be husband and wife again. I replied, there is no next life, Sophia. Not in this life, not in any lifetime. She smiled bitterly, assuming I said that only because I hated her too much, but I said seriously, before I returned, I made a wager with the God of heaven. If he rejected me in this life, then we would never be husband and wife again for all eternity. I thought the outcome was obvious, but I paused. I lost the bet. Sophia widened her eyes, struggling to sit up in agitation. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I said softly. I wanted to tell you countless times, but you never gave me a chance to get close to you. The last time was when I heard you tell Jasmine that I was surplus baggage. After that, I felt there was no need to say anything anymore. She suddenly remembered that day, an utterly ordinary day. Yet it was the day she lost her chance to remain my wife forever. Never in her life had she felt regret like this. She hated herself so much she wanted to kill the woman she had been back then. Tears streamed uncontrollably down her face. The heart monitor let out a piercing alarm. At last, Sophia collapsed helplessly onto the bed and breathed her last. She died with her eyes open. I raised my hand and gently closed them for her. Rest in peace. All the love and hatred I once felt for that woman vanished completely at the moment of her death. I pushed the door open and said to Willow, "Let's go. She's dead." Behind me came Jasmine's heartrending cries. I didn't turn back, but just as we reached the hospital entrance, a speeding car came barreling straight toward me. Under the blinding headlights, I saw clearly, it was Noah. Noah gripped the steering wheel tightly, accelerating like a madman. He regretted not going to the Liu family. That happiness should have been his. It was all George's fault for stealing Willow from him. Willow shoved me aside, pulling me out of the way, but Noah spun the wheel and accelerated again. At the critical moment, Jasmine rushed over and took the fatal blow for me. Both her legs were crushed clean off at the roots, yet she lifted her head and smiled. "Dad, can you forgive me now?" When Noah sobered up and realized what he had done, he was so terrified that he took his own life. After learning that Makoto had incited Noah to commit murder, Jasmine sent Makoto to prison, hiring lawyers to ensure he was sentenced to life imprisonment. After settling everything, she transferred the Kim Corporation to me, then renounced the secular world and became a nun. 1 year later, Willow and I welcomed our children into the world, a set of twins, a boy and a girl. I gently kissed Willow on the cheek and said, "I will love you and our children forever." Outside the window, the dark clouds dispersed, leaving a clear, bright sky, just like the life that awaited me from now on.